Hello, friends. This is Avinash again. Today we are going to go into the network part of the GCP and learn how to create a network with public and private subnets. And then we will explore more on the network side. So I will not go too much into the detail. I'll just start with my demo and then I'll keep explaining each and every attribute we select, how to create the VPC network and what we do with the subnet mask. So the main goal for us here is to create a VPC network with public subnet and a private subnet, which we will use them when creating the VM instance. So one VM instance we will create with the public subnet and another one we'll try to create with a private subnet, and then set up a communication between the two using the firewall. So let's focus on just creating the VPC network first, and then we will extend it to further creating firewalls and using them on the VM instances. Okay, so let's go to the network. So VPC network, create a VPC network. So right now all the default ones are here. So I've already created one network, my public VPC1. And now, as you can see, this is created in the US region, but now today I'm going to create in the Europe region. So let's create one VPC network. So let's say call EU-VPC-1 Europe VPC network, and subnet. Either you have an option to either use the custom or automatic. So automatic will create the subnet on its own. If you want to learn more about subnet, you can click on the link and then it will give you more idea what the subnet means. So it's like a different range of IP addresses in the one subnet. It's slightly different from the subnet we create in the local LAN or in the office environment without the cloud. So where subnet is basically create a different range of IP networks, sorry, IP addresses, and then for different department, and then create a firewall rule between them. But in GCP, it's slightly different. They are not like in the different networks. So they exist in the same network only. But so the routing part, which we have to configure in the LAN area, LAN network, LAN, so that two subnet can communicate to each other. But in GCP, they can communicate by default because GCP automatically provide the routing facility. So they can talk to each other by default. So there is no extra routing or anything you need to do in the cloud environment. So to replicate the two subnet creation in the LAN is equivalent to creating a multiple VPC network. So yeah, so I also got confused initially, but this is a little different between the the LAN and the creating the network subnet in the cloud. Okay, so we can say EU public one region. Now we discussed that we will use the Europe West one. An IP address we can say 10.0.1.0/24. 24 network bits and 12 host bits. Sorry, 8 host bits. So the first 3 represent the network and the last is the host. If I want to create the secondary IP range, I can create like 20 dot or something. Whatever is basically in the refer to IANA website for the private network IP addresses, and you can create them 192.172 or anything you like. Okay, so we are done with this, and we can add another subnet, which will be our EU private one. Again, we will create in the Europe West one only. I think I did create the Euro. And then here you could say 192.192.0.1 dot, or we can say 10.0.2.0/24. Okay, so we have not enabled the DNS, so everything is created now. So my EU PC is getting created. Okay, so I've got the Europe West one, Europe West one. As you can see, 10.0.2 private and EU public is 10.0.1.1. So now we can create some firewall. So there are some firewall rules already created, which I can either use or I can explain you. So we can create some firewall rule, like a new firewall rule. So firewall, EU firewall 1, I can say 100, and I can say my 1. All instance in the network. If you want to learn specify target tags, which is basically I can if you know about the labels, then you can create the labels, and basically by using those labels you can apply this firewall to a certain machine. Or you can have a specified service account, which is like my account or some other account. If we can also use the account as well, account name when creating the firewall. But let's keep it simple. All instance in the network account I cannot really use because I only have got one account right now. Target text, so we don't have many machines, so it will not be really helpful. I would probably need 50 or 100 machines to create that sort of environment to use the second option, specify target text. So all instances in the network, IP range. So I can say all computer 0.0.0 slash 24 because, or I can say 8, or it's basically I can all of them. Oh, my mistake, sorry. 0.0.0.0 slash 0, which means all network. If I want to create the second filter, I can do that as well. And I will say allow all. And that's all, friends. So we managed to create the VPC network and successfully did the firewall. And now what we need to do using these two. So after having firewall and after having basically network created, we need to use them on the machine. So we do virtual machine just to see like if they can communicate to each other. So what we will do, we'll go to the compute engine. One machine we will create having a like external IP address, and one machine with the only with the local IP address. So just to refine it, so one machine will have public IP plus the local IP. The second machine will have just the local IP only. So what does it mean? It's simple, like a machine without a public IP, we won't be able to access that machine use the internet. So the only way for us to use that machine is like go to one VM instance and RDP from there use the local IP address. So now you may be thinking like right now we have done the allow all on the VPC, our VPC network. So which means like I can do, so all the protocols are allowed between those two machines or within the network. If I create multiple third machine, then also it will be allowed. But I can, using the firewall, the same thing. I can just restrict it on the restrict those access using the firewall. Like for example, if I show you other firewall, so I have provided the range. So the source filter, if the source is coming from this particular IP address, where /32 means like I need to match all 32 bits, then I'm allowed to use the 3389 and 8080 and ICMP protocol only. Rest of the protocols are disabled. So if I try to use or go to any other port, like for example, SSH or do anything else, it will be blocked. But if we say allow all, then means it allow all the protocols, like whatever I'm exposing from the machine, I should be able to access using the machine having public IP address. I should be able to use the public IP address and access those services. The firewall will let me basically restrict it as well. So as you can see, I have restricted, so I can include or more protocols. That's the way firewall works. Not the extended range of feature like we may expect from the firewall like Palo Alto or maybe other firewall providers, but it does the basic level of segregation. Oh, not segregation is not the right word, but the basic level of security it provide and restrict the access to the machine. Okay, let's just explore now. Let's go to compute engine, create the VM instance. I'll create two instances using one private one with the public subnet. I can use Windows 1. I will go best 1. 2. I can have like a powerful machine to start quickly. Same thing. I'm using the Windows so that we can more. It's like graphical representation makes it a little easier to see what is happening. We can do the same thing on Linux as well. So now what we need to do is like to change the network, because by default the default is selected. So here we go, and as you can see, EU private or public. So first machine we can use with the public, and now we don't want any external IP address, so we switch it off and then create machine. And then now we do another one. Windows 2. Windows 2. Again, the Europe West one. So this time we can try Linux. Even I have not tried to explore it. We will use the ping and see if that works. If I can ping the other side of the machine, then this I really wanted to show today here. The networking. So the only problem I've got, it is like I created my Windows with a private, and I really cannot use the Ubuntu for the public IP address. Let me just stick with the Windows one. But definitely I will explore more, and the next time I will try to show if we can communicate with Linux and Windows. But what theory says, like if they are on the same network and we have resolved the communication through firewall, they should communicate. So I can have like my services running on Linux and my web server running on web, then they should be able to communicate. So you may be asking like why we have to explore such kind of architecture. So I think a lot of us with the software IT background will understand like all our DB database application server, they are hidden behind the public networks. So they are only accessible by using the reverse proxy and exposed by a web server. So the reverse proxy is configured on the web server, and then that's how they communicate. So the only place user comes is on the web server. They type in the URL, and then the web server is all the net using the reverse proxy and communicate to the application server. So it block all the direct access to the applications server and the databases. Or you can say like any unauthorized access to those servers. So further, like in here, like we have allowed all sort of ports, but there in the firewall we can restrict it. So somehow if user try to come onto the web server using the public IP address, and in our demo we have allowed all the ports, so user can connect to the other machine, but you can restrict the all the access directly using service account, like a secondary filter you can create. Only the certain account will have certain access. So you can play around with those combination to basically make it airtight. So again, like we will use the EPC, now this time we'll use public. And we want both premium, default, and then create the machine. It will take a while and both machines are ready, but so yeah, we have started on networking, so I'll be keep bringing more things on the networking side and the firewall. So yeah, our next goal would be like creating two different networks in the different regions, and then creating a peer connection between those two, so that machine in one network able to communicate to the machine in the other network. So without having a need of internet connection to access those machines, I can basically connect to one network machine, should be able to connect to the other machine in the another network. But that will be in the next session. By the time machine get ready, so there is something to do. So we set the Windows password. Let's store them on the notepad. Got it. Close, and then do the same for the other machine. And I got it. Now, friends, we got the both password. Now we are almost the final stage of it. So we just do the remote connection. 34.77.111.124 Hopefully my machine is ready. Yeah, sometime not sure why it does take a while. Okay, let's wait for a few minutes. And in the meantime, let's check our firewall rule. So VPC Network. I'll open this in another tab, so you don't have to. The firewall, this is the firewall we created, EU firewall, and I've allowed all the IP addresses. So yes, finally we are able to more choices, use a different account. AV126, copy and paste password, connecting to the machine. So this bit here, we always done few times. So my Windows is getting ready. Just for information, so the private PC is in the 10.0.2.0 subnet. So the IP address is private IP address is 10.0.2.2, and for the public subnet is 10.0.1.2. So what we will try to ping it, and we will configure the IIS on the private. And just to say, like, if I can access it from the other machine, the web server, but that won't be, I won't be able to access the IIS or the web page from my local machine because there's no public IP address. But I should be able to access successfully the IIS web page from my machine of the Windows 2 machine, which I'll configure. Okay, so I'll just update few things, and then we basically. So the first thing I like to show you, if I can ping the other machine. Command prompt. So can I ping 10.0.2.2? Yes, you can ping it. And now let's quickly configure the IIS server. I've done this many times, so I will not go through the details, so just quickly skipping that. And in the meantime, what we can do is try RDP to the machine in the private subnet. So we can type in 10.0.2.2, You remember that we already have password, so we'll just copy the Windows password to connect to that machine. And as you can see, like this machine, we are able to connect perfectly fine. So both machines are talking to each other now. I can ping another machine. So the only thing what I'm realizing now, I've created the Windows instance, Windows 1 instance using the Windows Server DC core version, which is not giving me like a Windows interface to show you how I can install the IIS and other features. But the overall, I just wanted to display how we can use the VPC network private and public subnet. Although there's not much difference, so the only option we did is like we basically on the private one, we blocked the external IP address, so it's not accessible from the. So now if we go and play with the firewall, just to want to show you like, if I go to now my firewall here, and then I start basically now edit this and remove the source IP. Let's say source IP, but that's fine. But I include the port. The TCP, I only say 80 port. And now if I save it, now the magic, what will happen? So the first thing is I will have my access blocked. It is already blocked now. Okay, so if I try to now do the RDP, so it should not let me do the RDP, or it's not even let me ping to the other machine. Okay, so now if we go back to the firewall, edit it again, and allow other protocol like ICMP, which is for pinging, and add the RDP port. Let's not add the other protocol yet. Let's have some fun before we reach that stage. Okay, so it's saved now. So now if I try RDP, bingo. So it is letting me connect to the machine now. And so now I try the, can see the IP config ping 10.0.1.2. So we have blocked ICMP, so it will not work as well. And now we go and edit the network again and allow other protocol, ICMP, and save it. Our source IP range is all networks. So if you want to restrict it further, you can provide the source IP range as well. So now if I go and type ping, as you can see, I can ping from here and I can ping from the other machine as well. So that's all that's all I wanted to talk about, creating a network in the firewall with a private and public subnet. So tomorrow we are going to extend this discussion further, and I will use the similar setup, but with another network, a second network, and then create the peer connection between those networks. Thanks, friends. Hope you liked the session today. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.